Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're diving into a really powerful idea. What if the best way to share a big worldview isn't through a list of facts or a sales pitch, but by inviting someone into an epic, cosmic story? Okay, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at why some of these conversations about faith can feel kind of transactional. Then, we'll unpack this narrative alternative. We'll look at the idea of a cosmic conflict, a hero's victory, and what salvation even means in this story. And finally, we'll check out a practical guide for how to tell it. All right, so let's just jump right into a problem I think we all recognize. Why does sharing deeply held beliefs sometimes feel so awkward? Like you're either being sold something or just being handed a list of rules? Yeah, I think pretty much everyone has been there, right? The framework we're looking at today kicks off by acknowledging that exact feeling, the sense that you're the target for a pitch, which, let's be honest, can put up a wall almost instantly. So what this approach does is call for a total reframe. Instead of a moral checklist, a list of do's and don'ts, all about you, it shifts the whole focus to this massive unfolding cosmic drama about, well, everything. It's like moving from a microscope to a telescope. And psychologically, that changes the game, doesn't it? A checklist feels like a test you can fail. But a story is an invitation to come find your place in it. And that brings us to this idea of a unified drama. The argument here is that the entire biblical text, from Genesis all the way to Revelation, isn't just a random jumble of wisdom and sayings. It's one single, coherent story with a very clear plot. You've got paradise, then paradise lost, and finally, paradise regained. All right, so if we're telling a story, every good story has to have a central conflict, right? This is where the framework gets really interesting, because it redefines the fundamental problem facing all of us and the world itself. To really get this story, you have to wrap your head around this really powerful phrase. The idea is that sin isn't just breaking a rule or, a personal moral slip-up. In this narrative, it's an act of all-out rebellion, and it attempts to overthrow a rightful and good king. It's treason. And you can see the fallout from this treason literally everywhere. It's not just some abstract spiritual problem. According to this framework, this is the root cause of our alienation, our broken relationships, and the total breakdown of peace, or shalom, in the world. It's the story's answer to the big question, what on earth has gone wrong? And this is where the plot thickens, because the story isn't just about us humans. This model says the conflict is way bigger, that it involves these hostile spiritual forces. You could almost think of it as a cosmic turf war. This frames the world's problems not just as human error, but as a genuine battle between kingdoms. Okay, so if the world is a battlefield and there's this cosmic rebellion happening, well, every story like that needs a hero, right? And that brings us to the climax of the drama and the role of Christ. Now, this is a really big shift in how you might think about this. Instead of seeing Jesus mainly as a teacher of nice moral ideas, this story presents him as a divine king on a rescue mission. His actions, things like healings and exorcisms, they're framed as these tactical military advances, basically reclaiming enemy-occupied territory for his kingdom. The core idea for this turning point has a name. It's called Christus Victor, which just means Christ the Victor. It's this idea that the crucifixion wasn't a tragedy or a moment of defeat, but the decisive battle where the warrior king totally defeats the powers of darkness and liberates his people. And what's so crucial to understand here is that this victory is, it's not simple. It's incredibly rich and has all these different layers. In this telling, the cross is a massive cosmic victory. It's a personal sacrifice. It's a grand reconciliation. And it's the disarming of all those spiritual forces that held humanity captive. Okay, this brings us to a really, really critical shift in understanding. If the whole story is about a cosmic war between kings, what does being saved actually mean in that context? So to get this, we actually have to do a little digging into the original language. The Greek word we usually translate as faith is pistis. Now, in the Roman Empire, this word was way more than just mental belief. It was a political term. It meant loyalty, faithfulness, a pledged allegiance to a ruler. And this really gets to the absolute heart of the argument. The call of the gospel in this framework isn't just to agree that a list of facts is correct. It's an invitation to defect from one kingdom and pledge your allegiance to another, to the victorious King Jesus. Okay, So we've got the epic cosmic story, the warrior king, salvation as switching sides. But how do you actually talk about this stuff? Let's look at how all this theory gets boiled down into a practical conversational method. The method they propose is a pretty simple four-step process. But look at what comes first. Listen. It starts with the other person's perspective, their story, and only then does it connect that to the bigger biblical story. It's a method built on dialogue, not monologue, which is all about building trust and respect before you even start sharing ideas. So here's what step one looks like in practice. Notice it doesn't start with a Bible verse or some kind of proof. It starts with real, honest questions that explore the other person's own story, their own sense of what's broken and what's good in the world. And this is a fantastic example of step three. It just brilliantly reframes the whole conversation. It takes the focus off of personal performance, am I a good enough person, and puts it right on the central theme of the story. Who's your king? Which kingdom are you loyal to? And here we go, the final step. See how it's not some high-pressure sales close? It's totally relational. It's just a simple offer to check out the story's source material together. No strings attached. It's an invitation to come and see, not a demand to decide right now. So in the end, this whole framework really leaves us with this one big question. What if the goal isn't to win a debate or prove a point? What if it's to show how one particular story makes more sense of our deepest feelings about beauty, brokenness, justice, and hope than any other? Maybe the most compelling way to share a worldview isn't to argue for it, but to simply invite someone inside.